The floor of the Wilcor Tower lobby gleamed under the late morning sunlight, reflecting the hurried footsteps of suits and stilettos. Among them, Ray knelt quietly, a worn microfiber cloth in one hand, a small polish kit in the other. Her long braids were tied neatly back, her uniform plain and clean. Every day she polished the marble edges and brushed off the smudges from the brass nameplate outside the elevators. Most people never looked down long enough to see her face. Troy Blanton did, and he grinned when he saw her. "Well, if it isn't our building mascot," he said loud enough for everyone in earshot. His expensive shoes clicked as he stepped closer. "Still down there with your little rag, huh?" Ray didn't respond. She simply moved to the next set of steps, her fingers steady, her posture calm. Mila, Troy's personal assistant, joined in with a chuckle, tapping her latte cup against her palm. "She probably thinks this job comes with benefits," Mila whispered mockingly. Behind them, Zach, the youngest on the trading floor upstairs, laughed too loudly and spilled his coffee deliberately, letting the dark liquid splash across the tile and onto Ray's shoes. "Oops," he smirked. "Better get that before the stock drops." The three of them laughed. Other employees glanced, some smirked, others quickly looked away, and entered the elevators. Ray stood slowly, wiping her shoes without a word. Her smartwatch buzzed once. She glanced at it and typed a short message. Troy leaned in. "Texting. Someone to rescue you. Or placing an order for humility." Zach raised his phone, already recording. "Smile for the company TikTok, Miss Janitor." Ray looked straight into the camera, her eyes steady and unreadable. Then she said just 3 words. "You'll understand soon." The elevator behind her chimed, its silver doors sliding open. Everyone froze. No one used that elevator unless they had clearance beyond even Troy's reach. 3 men in tailored black suits stepped out first, scanning the lobby. Behind them came a tall man in a charcoal suit, sunglasses tucked into his shirt collar, his pace deliberate, eyes sharp. The silence in the room deepened as his polished shoes clicked against the stone. Cole Lancaster. Whispers rippled. The building's elusive co-owner, rarely seen, always rumored. The man whose signature was on every major contract, whose silence held more power than most boardrooms combined. He walked past Troy without acknowledgement and stopped in front of Ray. "You all right?" His voice was calm, but layered with cold authority. Ray nodded once. "Right on time." Cole turned to the guards. "Clear the lobby, and have Wilcor's executive team meet in Conference Suite 7. 15 minutes. Troy blinked. "Excuse me, but—" Cole cut him off with a raised hand. "No excuses. You have no idea who you've just insulted." Zach took a step back. "Wait. Hold on. What's happening?" Mila whispered something under her breath, her fingers trembling as she scrolled through her phone. Cole looked directly at her. "You have exactly 14 minutes left of access to this building. I suggest you use them wisely." The guards started ushering people out as murmurs filled the space. Someone finally asked, "What's going on?" Ray stepped forward, wiping. Her hands clean with a cloth before tucking it neatly into her kit. "I've been observing," she said clearly. "Not cleaning," Troy's jaw tightened. "Observing what? You're a janitor." "Wrong again," Cole said. "She's my partner, my wife, and this entire building belongs to both of us." Mila dropped her latte. It shattered, unnoticed. "I came down here," Ray continued, "because I wanted to understand what kind of people lease our space, how they treat those they believe are beneath them, how easily they forget manners when they think no one's watching." Zach looked around in desperation. "That's crazy. We didn't know." "Exactly," Cole interrupted. You didn't. No. You never even cared to ask her name. A security guard handed Cole a small device. With a quick tap, a screen lit up behind the front desk. Footage rolled. Silent video clips of the morning's incident, plus previous ones. Zach pouring coffee. Mila mocking an older cleaner last week. Troy pushing past a disabled delivery man without apology. The evidence was silent, but deafening. No need for explanation, Cole said. Just consequences. A new nameplate was being installed behind the concierge desk. Ray Lancaster, Director, Equity Oversight. She smiled gently, finally locking eyes with Mila. I used to clean shoes in this lobby. Now I'm cleaning. Out the rot. And just like that, the real story began. Tension stretched across the walls of Conference Suite 7, like invisible wires ready to snap. The room, normally used for investor briefings, now held Wilcor's senior team in a stunned silence. Polished wood gleamed beneath the boardroom lights, but no one noticed. Troy paced near the glass wall, while Mila sat rigid, scrolling through her phone for answers that wouldn't come. Zach tapped his pen against a legal pad, though he hadn't written a single word. Cole stood at the head of the table, his presence swallowing the air. Next to him, Ray sat calm, poised, in a crisp navy suit. The change in her posture was unmistakable. No longer the quiet cleaner in the lobby, but the rightful owner of the room. Her silence carried weight. Her gaze demanded respect. I appreciate your quick arrival, Cole began, voice even, though his eyes didn't soften. Let's be clear. This isn't a meeting. It's a reckoning. Troy forced a laugh, though it cracked halfway. With all due respect, Mr. Lancaster, this seems like a misunderstanding. We didn't realize who she was. That's exactly the point, Ray said. You didn't care to find out. You looked at me and decided I didn't matter. Cole pulled out a slim folder and placed it on the table. Inside were printed transcripts, time-stamped emails, and images from security footage. This is a small sample of what we've collected. Over the last 4 weeks, he said. Enough to establish patterns of workplace harassment, targeted mockery, and a culture of entitlement. Mila swallowed hard. We were joking. Just light teasing. Ray's expression didn't change. Teasing doesn't leave bruises on dignity. Zach shifted in his seat, glancing toward the exit. Why was she even working in the lobby? I wasn't working, Ray answered. I was watching, listening. You see, I've been helping. Design an AI-driven behavioral monitoring tool, an early detection system for unethical conduct in corporate environments. We've tested it across 6 of our properties. Wilcor performed the worst. Troy's brow furrowed. You spied on us? No, Cole said. You broadcasted your behavior openly. Cameras, emails, public chats. You provided the evidence. Yourselves. We just documented it. He turned to a mounted screen behind them. With a quick command, a slideshow began. First, a chat thread where Zach mocked a female colleague's accent. Next, an email from Mila sarcastically questioning a disabled candidate's ability to climb the career ladder. Finally, footage of Troy tossing paperwork at an intern during a meeting. You created this environment, Ray said, and you infected everyone beneath you with your arrogance. A knock at the door interrupted the quiet. 2 legal advisors stepped in, handing sealed envelopes to each of the 3. Inside, you'll find your termination papers, Cole explained. Effective immediately. Grounds: violation of corporate ethics, harassment, and fostering a hostile work culture. Troy's face turned red. This is insane. I built that trading floor. I brought in the highest quarterly revenue. And yet, Ray said softly, you couldn't bring yourself to treat people with basic humanity. Mila stood, trying to collect herself. I'm not the villain here. I was just following tone. That's the problem, Cole replied. You followed tone instead of conscience. Zach looked defeated. I've got rent due, student loans, a sick brother. You can't just throw me out like garbage. Ray leaned forward. And yet, that's exactly how you treated me. When you laughed as I scrubbed stains off the floor. When you uploaded that video for likes. Mila's voice cracked. I made one mistake. One mistake? Ray's eyes narrowed. Or hundreds, repeated without guilt? A moment passed before Cole spoke again. You've got 10 minutes to collect your belongings. After that, your access will be revoked permanently. Security will escort you out. Troy slammed his folder, shut. We'll sue, for wrongful termination, defamation. You're welcome to try, Cole said. But the footage is public property. The behavior occurred in monitored spaces. We're within full legal rights. He nodded to one of the attorneys, who began setting up a presentation on the screen. We'll be notifying the press within the hour. Transparency matters. Mila nearly dropped her phone. Wait, you're going public? Of course, Ray answered, because shame grows in silence. We want this to be seen. Zach put his head in his hands. Please, don't do this. I'll apologize. I'll go to HR. HR is being restructured, Cole said flatly. You won't be part of it. As the room emptied, Ray stood last. Her eyes swept over the table one final time. You thought I was invisible, she said to the empty seats. Turns out I was the mirror. Then she walked, out, leaving behind the echo of power reclaimed. Outside the boardroom, word had already spread. Employees whispered in corridors, eyes darting toward the private elevator that only a handful had ever seen open. Desks remained unattended. Coffee cups trembled in nervous hands. Something irreversible had just happened, and everyone knew it. On the 40th floor, the glass doors of Wilcor Finance closed behind Troy, Mila, and Zach for the last time. Each one flanked by a guard, silent and watchful. Their security badges were deactivated. Phones, company-issued devices, and access cards were collected. The office they once dominated no longer belonged to them. Ray stood at the center of the main floor. Her presence drew every gaze. She wore the same composed expression as before, but now there was something new. Authority that no one could deny. Cole stood beside her, silent but resolute. Some of you are wondering what happens next, Ray began, her voice carrying across the stunned crowd. The truth is, this isn't the end. It's the start of something long overdue. Monitors lit up across the floor as a presentation loaded on every screen. At the top, the Equity Index Report, Wilcor Division. Charts, metrics, and audit results appeared one by one. The numbers painted a damning picture. Diversity gaps, suppressed complaints, discriminatory language in emails, delayed promotions for minority staff. This is the report from our internal ethics system, Cole said. It's been active for 6 months. Every violation was documented. Every silent witness noted. Eyes widened. Some employees covered their mouths. Others looked down, unable to meet her gaze. No one had imagined their daily habits would be quantified, analyzed, recorded. A final slide appeared on the screens. Lease termination. Wilcor Finance Group. Eviction notice. Effective immediately. Gasps echoed. One bold analyst raised a hand. You're shutting us down? No, Ray answered. You shut yourselves down the moment you made exclusion your culture. A man from the compliance team stepped forward, uncertain. What about the staff who weren't involved? We're offering severance and referrals to those who remained neutral, Cole explained. But neutrality is no longer a shield. It never should have been. Ray motioned to the digital wall. Another slide appeared, this one filled with names, photos, and companies. These are the new tenants, she announced. Startups led by women, Black founders, disabled innovators, and first-generation college graduates. We've launched a program to support them with free rent, mentorship, and legal services. The room fell into stunned silence. You're replacing a financial empire with tech babies and dreamers? Someone muttered under his breath. Ray heard. She smiled slightly. Empires fall. Ideas rise. A round of quiet claps began, hesitant at first, then growing. It came from corners once afraid to speak, from interns who had endured, assistants who had swallowed insults, managers who'd watched in silence, now realizing the power of visibility. She turned back toward the window, watching the skyline stretch beyond the glass. Chicago looked different from up here. Not colder, just clearer. 6 months ago, Ray said, still facing the view, I was told I should smile more, serve coffee better, and know my place. I smiled. I served. But I never forgot my place. I just waited for the right moment to take it. Cole approached with a tablet, handing it to her. The screen displayed the launch confirmation of the Ray Equity Program, officially backed by Lancaster Holdings. $10 million in initial funding, Cole said, matched by our top partners. Ray nodded. Good, but it's not just about capital. It's about access. From behind them, Tom, an IT lead, stepped forward nervously. I want to help, he said. What you're building, it matters. Ray looked at him for a beat, then extended her hand. Then help us build it right. As the day progressed, employees packed belongings while new faces arrived, ready to pitch ideas and meet mentors. Desks that once echoed arrogance were now being prepared for fresh purpose. In the lobby, the building's welcome screen no longer displayed Wilcor's logo. Instead, in bold letters, it read, Home of the Ray Equity Program. Changing business. From the ground up, Cole watched from a distance as Ray greeted a young entrepreneur, no older than 22, who had just been handed keys to her new office. You really did it, he said. Ray smiled, calm and unshaken. I didn't do it for me. I did it so no one else has to scrub floors to prove they deserve a seat at the table. And just like that, the skyscraper that once symbolized exclusivity began to represent something entirely different. Possibility. 1 year later, the building that once echoed with dismissive laughter now pulsed with ambition. The marble lobby no longer smelled of entitlement. It carried the energy of change. Gone were the days of cold stares and hushed mockery. Now, the air buzzed with ideas, courage, and new beginnings. Ray stood near the entrance, watching the morning unfold. Young professionals passed through the revolving doors, their ID badges reading names that once wouldn't have even been interviewed. Some wore sneakers with tailored jackets. Others brought notebooks full of prototypes instead of pitch decks. They greeted her with smiles, some unaware they were walking past the woman who built this revolution. A news crew prepared their cameras in the atrium, setting up for the long-awaited premiere of the documentary. Rising from the floor. The Ray, Lancaster story. Across the city, digital billboards showed her face beside the slogan, Redefining Power, One Door at a Time. Cole approached, dressed in his usual understated elegance. The theater's full. People are flying in from everywhere. "Not for me," Ray said. "For the story. For the reminder that silence doesn't mean weakness." She turned toward the screens now lining the upper lobby. The documentary's opening played clips from her time-polishing floors, side by side with today's footage, shaking hands with investors, guiding high school students through office, tours, mentoring first-time founders. The contrast wasn't jarring. It was poetic. Upstairs, the former Wilcor floor had become a co-innovation lab. Transparent glass panels displayed artwork created by students funded through the Ray Equity Fellowship. Data charts showed company diversity rising across all tenants. Whiteboards were filled with strategy plans, not exclusion lists. Meanwhile, the original offenders had vanished from the business scene. Troy was spotted working as a warehouse supervisor on the city's edge. Mila had applied to over a dozen firms, none willing to take her past behavior lightly. Zach had disappeared from social media entirely. His apology videos had gone unwatched. No sympathy surfaced for those who once showed none. Ray's inbox overflowed daily. Messages from aspiring leaders, grateful parents, college professors, and survivors of discrimination. One message stood out that morning from a young black student in Detroit. "Miss Lancaster, I watched your story with my mom. She cried. She said it was the first time she believed I could become more than what people expect. I just got accepted into your accelerator. Thank you for showing us that dignity doesn't need permission." She paused after reading. Emotion flickering across her face, not out of pride, but recognition of how far things had come. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had been repurposed. Cameras followed her as she took the stage in the building's new community hall. The seats were packed with journalists, entrepreneurs, scholars, and teens from underrepresented schools. No marble walls, no VIP barriers, just people gathered around an idea. She stood at the center, the same place where, a year ago, she had stood covered in spilled coffee and mockery. Now, she wore an emerald blazer, no longer a disguise, just a choice. "When they laughed," she began, "I listened. When they mocked, I observed. And when they humiliated, I recorded, not because I wanted revenge, but because I believed the truth deserves its moment." A hush settled. They didn't just insult me. They dismissed every person who has been overlooked, underestimated, or told to stay in their place. They didn't know that place was beside power, not beneath it. She walked down from the stage and joined the crowd, greeting students, hugging mothers, shaking hands with startup founders. Her movement wasn't scripted. It was real. That's what made it unforgettable. Outside, a new plaque had been installed, near the main doors. Etched in metal, it read, "This building was reclaimed by justice, not burned by rage. May every step inside remind you that leadership begins with listening." The applause from inside spilled out onto the street. People gathered around the glass walls, watching history reshape itself. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, Ray looked out once more, not seeking approval, but direction. She hadn't just cleaned a lobby. She'd cleared a path for thousands, and, as another young girl stepped through the doors, notebook in hand, eyes wide with hope, Ray smiled. Her work wasn't finished. It had only just begun.